The Accidental Prime Minister, Chapter 15. That joke isn't funny anymore. Good evening and welcome to a special report. I'm Charlie James. It's only been in existence for a few weeks, but already the Anti-Sillyness League is having a huge effect. We see them every day wearing their Anti-Sillyness League badges with pride. Is this a real political movement or a flash in the pan? We spoke to one clown who asked us to keep his identity a secret. Tell me what the last few days have been like for you. A nightmare. I mean, it's no laughing matter. I have to go everywhere in disguise so people don't know I'm a clown, said the shadowy figure, his silhouette revealing the round nose and curly wig that is the stock in the trade of clowns. I know a few other clowns who have been forced to give up because of this anti-silliness stuff. You know, because of the stigma of all. It started going wrong when we got sued for throwing a custard pie in someone's face, and soon after that, protesters turned up and started yelling abuse at me and the other clowns. No one needs to take that, do they? We were forced underground, secret clowning around. Every so often, we put on our big shoes again and performed in disused car parks or abandoned warehouses. It's not the same, but you know, it's better than nothing. The clown said with a sigh. And that's not all, Charlie continued. We hear that joke shops are closing down all the time. It's getting harder and harder to buy rubber chickens or stink bombs anywhere. And the one big question tonight is, where is the Prime Minister? Has he given up on the country? Have we seen the last of Joe Perkins? I want more jelly. Someone get me jelly. Lime flavoured. I want lime. Joe sat in his prime ministerial jelly room in his pants, shoving great gloppy spoonfuls of jelly into his face. Hello! I said jelly! Where is everyone? Joe yelled, spraying jelly everywhere. Jenkins walked in, carrying a bowl of jelly with a sombre look on his face. About time, Jenkins. I think Sir may have had enough jelly for one day, Jenkins said, making an attempt to clear the room. Nonsense! I've only had 7 bowls this morning. I think 7 is plenty. Besides which, you have a visitor, Jenkins said, mopping the jelly globs from the wall. I'll leave you to it. I have to make a phone call. Oh dear. Cooey, son! Mum was hovering in the doorway, looking worriedly at Joe. Oh no. Joe sighed, putting his bowl and spoon down. How are you, Joe? Mum asked, struggling to smile. Fine, Joe spluttered. Hard to do with a mouthful of jelly. I saw AJ yesterday. He's still pretty upset about your argument, you know. Joe swallowed the last of the jelly. He's angry, but I think he'll get over it. I think mostly he's worried. We all are, and it's not like you two to argue. Well, people change, Joe said grumpily. AJ didn't seem like he'd change, except maybe he looked a bit sadder. Oh, I see. So you're saying I have changed. Is that right? Joe tossed his dish to one side and folded his arms crossly. Joe, you're sitting in your pants eating jelly. I think it's fair to say this is a new level of weird. Mum pulled Joe up by the hand and hoisted him over to the window. Joe, what do you see? What? Just say what you see. A mother who's assaulting her son? Stop it. Tell me what you see. All right, I see London. People, policemen, buildings, a seagull doing its business. I see a country who needs a leader, Mum yelled triumphantly. There's people out there who need you, Joe. People who believed in you. Isn't it about time you believed in you too? They don't need me. They don't want me. People are too afraid to joke on the streets anymore. Not because of this Anti-Sillyness League, but because of me. I'm Prime Minister and I couldn't even manage to save one blooming park, Joe yelled, tears stinging in his eyes. Everything's a mess and it's all my fault. It's all my fault. Oh, Joe, there'll be other parks. But I only have one son. We have to concentrate on saving you first. I can get another job somewhere else, she said, giving him a big cuddle. In a rundown park, not far from Downing Street, Jenkins was wearing a large pair of dark sunglasses and taking a seat on a park bench. He checked his pocket watch and looked around. Psst! The noise was coming from the bushes behind him. Jenkins turned around and peered over his glasses. Could you be any more obvious, Violetta? You can talk. Nice sunglasses. Did they come free in a cracker? I thought you weren't coming, she said, standing up and brushing the leaves off her head. You can't be too careful. I didn't want anyone to see me. Talking to the likes of me? This is what power is all about, she exclaimed. The TV stuff, the things we do in front of the camera, that's just a show, a circus act for the fools at home. This is where the real stuff happens. Whispered conversations in secret. The question is, why are you here? I mean, it's obvious what I want. I want Perkins' job, but what is it you want, Jenkins? You're certainly not here because you like me, are you? I'm a realist. That means I like to keep my options open. I've been in this job long enough to know when a Prime Minister is finished. I know the way the wind is blowing, and I know it's only a matter of time before Perkins has to go. I also know that bouncy castles don't just explode by themselves, Jenkins said, lifting up his glasses. I thought I made the whole thing quite convincing. I knew it was you, Jenkins nodded. Closing one park is just the start of it. Once I've finished Joe off, the Anti-Sillyness League will sweep to power. No more parks anywhere. Roller coasters, trampolines, curly slides, pirate ships, all gone forever. Who needs fun when you can make money? Violetta cleared her throat and sat down next to Jenkins. Being PM will give me the chance to make school lessons twice as long. That way, by the time they all leave at 12 years old, they'll be ready to work for a living. No more of that loathsome enjoyment, just hard, honest work. Laughter is for the weak, fun is for imbeciles. We'll be the richest nation on earth. But, like I said, what do you want, Jenkins? I want my country back. There's a child in charge of the country that I love, and I can't take it anymore. Jenkins undid his coat to reveal an Anti-Sillyness League badge on the inside lapel. Violetta grinned with delight. You can be my deputy and have it all. Money, houses, whatever you want. All you have to do is persuade that horrible little oik to resign and hand over power to me. He'll listen to you. You just wait until the time is right and then convince the little twerp. Then it can be all yours. How will I know when it's the right time? Jenkins asked. Oh, just think of it. You and me working together, we can have whatever we want. You never know, Jenkins, you might even grow to like me. What do you say? Jenkins looked at Violetta and smiled. Chapter 16. All by myself. The sun was shining through the curtains, but Joe was still in bed, staring at the ceiling. It had all seemed so easy a few weeks ago, but now things were a mess. Joe slipped on a coat over his pyjamas, added a massive hat as a disguise, and headed outside. There was no one about, probably because the Anti-Sillyness League seemed to be everywhere, stopping fun at every turn. Joe kept his head down and walked aimlessly. When he looked up, he was outside the park gates. It had been closed since that fateful day. Joe gazed through the gates, looking at what remained of his brilliant park. What hadn't been chained up had been dismantled. An Anti-Sillyness League poster tied to the gates flapped about in the cool morning breeze. Fun is dangerous. Joe looked at it and sighed. He didn't even have enough energy to tear it down. He kept walking. All he wanted to do was escape the sadness inside, but it just wouldn't leave him alone. Goodness knows how long he'd been walking, but something snapped him out of his daze. Right across the road, there was a factory. Joe had seen it hundreds of times before, but he'd never really paid much attention to it. Today, though, was different. There was something about the shadow in the window. Joe walked up to the security guards at the gates. Excuse me, what does this factory make? Joe asked. Do I know you? The man said, trying to get a glimpse of Joe under his massive hat. I live round here, Joe said, trying to disguise his voice. That's probably where you've seen me before. All right, well, you know pork pies? Yeah. You know the jelly that you get in them? Yeah. Well, this is the place that puts the jelly into pork pies, he said, shrugging his shoulders. I know, pretty grim, huh? I wouldn't like to be stuck inside for 12 hours a day, pumping a pie full of goop. Nope, not me. Joe peered at the shadowy figure in the window, trying to see if it was... Yes, it was. It was his mum. He'd know that bouffant hair anywhere. His mum was working in a pork pie factory. She hated those things. It was all too much for Joe to take, and he turned and ran. "You're right, son," the security man called after him. Joe's feet pounded the streets. Not only had he failed to save the park, but now his mum was working in the one place she probably hated the most. "Ah!" Joe yelled, coming to an abrupt halt after suddenly being soaked to the skin by cold water. "What on earth?" "Sorry, I thought you were Zook from the planet Neptune." Joe shivered and turned to see a girl of about 8 sitting on a tricycle in her front garden. She was clutching a super soaker. "What are you talking about?" Joe said, wiping the water from his face. "Zook? Oh, come on, you must have heard of him. Squatching aliens is such fun." "No, and I think it's very silly to go around firing water pistols at people. You should stop it right away." "Don't be so childish." "Oh, you're one of those aunties," she said, knowingly. "One of what?" "An anti-silliness person. I've heard about them on the TV." "The Anti-Sillyness League, I think you mean," Joe snapped. "That's what I said. They're even more dangerous than Zook from the planet Neptune." And with that, she squirted him again. "Oi!" Joe bellowed. "Stop doing that. And no, I'm not one of those people. I'm the Prime Minister." "What's a Prime Minister?" the girl said, confused. "It means I'm in charge. I hate Prime Ministers." "How can you hate them when you don't even know what one is? All they do is go around shouting at people and telling them what to do and ruining everyone's fun. I don't do that. You just did." Joe didn't know what to say. He had just told her off when all she wanted to do was have fun. Joe took off his massive hat and scratched his head. "What's your name?" "Susie. And the way I see it, you can't beat giggles. Take the other day, for example. I did the squeakiest, longest fart ever. I timed it at 35.3 seconds. "That's gross." "And you timed them?" "Duh, yeah. How are you supposed to write them down on the fart chart? Anyway, the thing is, it made me laugh so much that I fell over. I fall over a lot." "So do I, actually," Joe said, smiling in spite of himself. "Great, isn't it? One moment you're walking along, the next you're flying through the air. Falling is the best." "I get embarrassed in case someone laughs," Joe said, looking down shyly. "Who cares? It's good to laugh at yourself. Sometimes I stand in front of the mirror pulling funny faces to make myself laugh. I can spend a whole afternoon doing it." Susie pulled some daft faces that made Joe laugh. It was a small, almost apologetic laugh at first. "I like to have croaking competitions too. I want to see who can croak like a frog the longest." Susie began. Joe looked around nervously in case anyone was watching. But so what if they were? Croaking in the street wouldn't have bothered him a few weeks ago. He took a deep breath. Joe couldn't keep it in any longer. He started to laugh, properly this time. "You win!" "Yes!" "You don't have another one of those super soakers by any chance?" "I have a whole stash." "Why?" "Because I think Zook is coming," Joe said, pointing at the postman. "And as Prime Minister, it is my job to protect the planet." "Welcome aboard, PM!" Susie yelled.